What's up, y'all? It's Try. Welcome to Try's World. It's Monday. Happy Monday, March 9th. A little warmer today, so I got my fan in the background. If you hear it, that's what it is. But yeah, very nice weather. As far as, I guess I can start with markets. I actually have some notes this time I took throughout the day I thought might be relevant. Start with some of that. And it's funny, I used to do this for Bank of America Private Bank. I used to put together this weekly investment letter. And it was basically a consolidation of news and things like that. And this was when I first started. And then I started getting into more serious trading and stuff like that. And so I didn't have time for it. But I feel like it's still helpful to share what I've learned, some news, especially with what's all been going on. But you saw the market drop a lot in pre-market and then rally all the way to green, essentially on the words of the president, basically saying, mission almost complete. It reminds me of George W. Bush's mission accomplished sign. Hey, I'm not going to make fun of and say taco this, taco that, because look, if he feels like, and that's what Hegseth is saying too, they don't need to be waving a white flag for us to declare victory. If we've hurt them, I guess, by the naval and certain metrics that they have internally, then it's crippled the regime in their eyes, and that's enough for the administration. That's I guess, from the top. And it seemed like things were kind of spreading this weekend and intensifying, and oil fields were aimed at and caught on fire, essentially. And every now and then I'll get Aaron Parnas, I think his name is, in my feed, and he kind of did a good job following up through everything that was going on, although he's a more, I would say, a liberal, which is fine. I mean, he still does a decent job. Sometimes he has a little bit, like I said, of left-leaning color, which it is what it is, but I basically listen to his facts that he provides, and the sky was black, full of the oil fields burning. It looked like things were intensifying bombing-wise from the U.S. and from Iran. The campaign to essentially the resistance has been more formidable than it seemed like the U.S. had planned for. There's still 88 voting, I think 88, 80, something like that, voting sort of precincts, and they voted for a new leader who's, I can't pronounce the name, Mojtaba Khamenei, which is the son of the Ayatollah. And not only was his father killed in the bombings, but so was I believe his mother, his wife, and a child. I think it's either a son or a daughter. And that's the first time it's been selected as sort of a genetic heir. It's just, I think that the vote wanted to signal that, hey, it's not done. We're serious about fighting this bombing campaign. So I think that's why markets initially dropped. But the president seems to not be shown a strong appetite for continuing it, or he feels like he's way ahead of schedule anyway, and whatever they're going to accomplish, they're going to accomplish. But a lot of other people are saying, hey, it's maybe even more dangerous than before with the bombing campaign like that. But in my eyes, it was always up to the discretion of the president to kind of stop this war or not, or continue it, or it's really up to him. I mean, or so he says, and it seems credible. I mean, people are saying that Israel pulled the United States in, but the president's saying that's not the case. So if the United States kind of initiated it, and again, he said he was afraid of an potential attack, and some other more serious things as well. And so he's glad he struck first, and he was afraid of there's a plot apparently by Iran on him, and he wanted to get ahead of it, and he felt like he got them first. Going back to markets, though, I don't know what this means for markets going forward. Like I've been saying, it's hard to predict, and I have a very, I think, informed audience, because over the weekend I was looking at the analytics, and two of my videos were trending. It was an index fund video and a not market timing video. So, trending in my own videos. And I have a whole bunch of shorts. I cut these podcasts into shorts now using AI. It's helped out a lot. I was telling someone in my family it's cut down the processing by editing at least by 80% for me. So, I can make a short podcast and just create shorts from it. So, like I said, the market sold off and it was looking like an ugly day until towards the end, and it rallied to green. And I've been saying it's just, and like I said, I still don't know what's going to happen. But that's why market timing can be tricky. I'm reading articles from some very smart people. Jason Zweig, actually. It might have been someone else, but it almost seemed like market timing. It was like, hey, essentially maybe you can get out I don't think it was Jason. I think it might have been another because it would be uncharacteristic of Jason to do that. But I read some author that was like, hey, if you're paying attention to the war and it starts to spread, or the wrong leader in Iran gets selected, then you can maybe jump out until things improve, and then you can jump back in. And so that's why I was saying on my podcast, you got to be careful. It's just not how markets work. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So I think an expensive game, a dangerous game. That doesn't mean it won't drop, but an investor I admire always says it too. I mean, stocks can drop 10, 20, 30, 40% sometimes for no reason. I mean, if it drops a lot, do you want to look into it? Yeah. But if it drops a lot, does it mean you're wrong? Not necessarily. A lot of times it may not if you've done solid research. And then, so the president feels like he's staying ahead of schedule and feels like the United States has already won in many ways. And so he doesn't see it ending this week, but he sees it ending, soon. And it seems like, markets responded well to that. And you're starting to see some panic, obviously, in the markets. If you look at individual securities, some are down a lot. So, and then I went to Costco this past weekend, and the gas lines people were lining up for gas. Like there was a line to line up for gas. I was kind of surprised. So as far as investing, that's pretty much that segment. It is tax time, so I'm probably going to keep this one a little shorter, work on whatever taxes I can, business taxes. But I keep seeing, so now, so as far as fun stuff, I keep seeing these Millennium sort of replays, Millennium Sphere, and I've seen some Millennium shows, and I feel like the videos are getting better and better because everybody's trying to improve on the ones they've already posted. So some are zooming in now, but yeah, it's just seems like a pretty incredible experience. I keep seeing these memes, Jeremy Lin speaking out on Kobe. I have a lot of thoughts on that. Obviously, I played, well, not obviously, but if y'all didn't know, I played basketball in high school. And I was on the verge of quitting the team, and the guys went and got me and pulled me back on the team. I think I've said this story on my lives, but not in this podcast. And it was because I wasn't playing, and I was so focused on academics. It's just, but they got me back on the team, and I was always like this defensive specialist, didn't get much playing time, but I was the only Asian on the team. That's how it was. Part of it is height, and part of it is skill as well. Obviously I didn't grow up necessarily in a basketball household, but I had a basketball hoop right outside my front yard, and so I was always shooting hoops, working out to de-stress and refocus. So, but I thought it's a tough environment, and that's what Jeremy Lin kind of alludes to a lot, often. And I saw it in organized basketball as well. Being the only Asian, it's tough. He was at obviously the professional level, and for a while he was couch surfing because people kept overlooking him. And what he was saying was, even when he played with Kobe, there were times where he felt like he wasn't being treated with respect, even though he was playing with one of the greatest in Kobe. And so he was straight up with Kobe on that, and Kobe didn't talk to him for a while. Jeremy feels like he got respect from that. I feel like from my experience, if basically someone really, really important on the team or a manager on the team not talking to you for a long time, it's not always a good sign. Kobe probably didn't take it well, and I think soon after he was traded to, I guess, Charlotte. I think he got injured. He was doing decent on Charlotte, but he got injured. And he did come back, but I think just something after that, you could see his career sort of decline after the Lakers and after his experience with Kobe. And soon after, he was just blackballed from the NBA altogether. So even though I know he could still play, and he felt like he could still play. And I felt the same way at times. I was balling people up, and a lot of, because you play out in the playgrounds or after school or wherever, in the gym, open gym, or basketball weights, wherever. And you're balling, you're doing well. And then the coaches get involved, and you got the refs involved, and then all of a sudden, we had a league in Charlotte for Bank of America, and I remember I was strong back then too. I'm still decent strength-wise, but I was really strong, so I was bulldozing dudes. And the ref was like, hey, you can't, they're complaining about your shoulder. And, Shea uses his off arm all the time, if you look at him. But when both people are in motion, it's not like they're falling flat on their butts, they're just, I was pretty quick too. I was always the quickest on line drills and suicides, which were basically line drills on both sides. And I was always one of the fastest, so I was quick. And so I always get first step on the dudes. And so, of course, if you step in front of me, I'm going to shoulder, I'm going to create some room with my shoulder, not even with my off arm. And so the refs, they actually told the refs, and the refs basically stopped me from doing it. So I'm like, so I can't use any physicality. So now it's like, if I get a first step and they foul me, I'm not going to get the foul. So it's like, it was like a work league. So I was like, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. But it's just stuff like that. It's one of those things where, and I mean, but yeah, I mean, in my high school days, I was really good. I wasn't looking to play college or nothing, but I thought, I mean, I had made the teams all the way from middle school. I made varsity, but I didn't stay on the team because, again, I was bench warming, and it's like I'm such a academic person that I was like, dang, I'm spending all this time like practicing, and that was fun. I didn't mind the practices. I love basketball. It's just I really wanted to play, and just didn't get the opportunities that I felt like I could have or should have. But then, junior year I didn't try out either. I should have, but didn't. So I tried out senior year and made it. So even though I wasn't even on the team, so that said a lot, really, about how they viewed me and stuff. That should have been enough. But I remember the coach was like, "You're not going to play. If I let you on the team, you're not going to play." And I didn't believe him. For some reason, I was like, "Okay." And I went on the team and I actually didn't play because the starting point guard, he had been on the team for, he put in his time. But I thought I'd at least get garbage minutes or something, but I got nothing. So I was like, man, I got to study. I was thinking in my mind. So I quit the team. I played, and I actually picked up another sport. I picked up, I think, I had been playing tennis since junior year, and I actually played. I made it all the way to number 3 in singles, and you got to be top 6 to be in singles or something like that. And then I started at doubles, which was like 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I worked all the way up to 3. Anyway, I feel like like loser jock, like recounting his glory days. But I did beat number 1. I could beat number 1, but I couldn't beat number 2, which is crazy on the tennis team. So I stayed number 3. But yeah, so he was speaking, and he got a lot of flack for it online. People are saying, "Hey, let it go," but it's like he had a tough journey. I mean, you look, and everybody's like, "Hey, well, what about Yao Ming?" My whole thing is like, how many 7'7" people do you know? Like Asian people. Asian people aren't 7'7", So, but are there 6-foot Asian guys? Taller guys and girls? Yeah, but they're really not getting that opportunity. And if you talk to Jeremy Lin, which pay attention, he says it all the time. They're just not getting the opportunity. He plays with them all the time. He plays with Asian people all the time, and he knows that people can ball. They're just not getting the opportunity. And that's like that. And we know this. It's like it's like that with African-American coaches in the NFL. I think Tony Dungy got the opportunity because of some programs the NFL had. I believe that was him. And then Mike Tomlin as well, perhaps. I don't know. But sometimes some people just need an opportunity. And, but I was always, when I was playing, I was always on a short leash. You couldn't make much of a mistake, and I was pulled out if I made like one small mistake. So it is what it is, but I definitely felt for him, and I did feel like he got blackballed after the Kobe incident. So I don't think his reception from Kobe was as good as he thought. That's my opinion, even though he felt good about maybe what he did. But Kobe was tough, and he was tough on everybody. But I did feel, I mean, even on the court at times, it seemed pretty disrespectful in my eyes. Seeing that, how good Jeremy is. I mean, he was really a star on the Knicks, and then he went on the Rockets. And of course, Daryl Morey, who's a terrible GM, he just traded Jared McCain, and he pissed off James Harden. This guy, Daryl Morey, and then he was like, brought on Jeremy Lin, and then brought on James Harden like shortly after. I was like, okay, well, that ruins Jeremy's shots, But he left the Knicks, I think, for a bigger role, and then they brought in another point guard, which is crazy. But that's Daryl Morey for you. I think he's so. I don't want to say my opinion on Daryl Morey, but a lot of people have opinions on Daryl Morey. He's like this analytics guy. I don't know. He thinks he's super smart because he's from I think MIT or something like that. But I think Pat Riley was like, I'm not letting no MIT guy beat me, or something like that. Because at the end of the day, it's about ball. It ain't about your credentials. So as in your pedigree. As far as education, I think you take that personal. So yeah, I mean, appreciate the likes, appreciate the views. I got more subscribers over the weekend, and obviously I appreciate it. Please continue to like, please continue to comment, please continue to subscribe. But other than that, I'm trying to think. Tax time, I already talked about that. Yeah, I pretty much covered it, but today's again a reminder that in the short run, the market's impossible to predict. You got to do what you can to stay away from that thing. And I know there are traders out there and stuff like that. It's not what I do. I invest for the long run. For the folks short-term trading, it's a tough business, and it's after fees and taxes. a lot of people don't end up winning that game. So just be careful. I did read an article about sports betting and how some people are going into debt to do it and all this stuff and how addictive it can be. And there is, just from an investing standpoint, there is a gambling mistake, and it's a common mistake. It's a psychological mistake. And it's a lot of people, I forgot who said it, but a lot of people go to Vegas and the best thing that could happen to them is they lose right away. Because the problem is, if they start winning a little bit, then they start betting bigger and bigger hands and starting to feel comfortable with the risk, when in reality, it's just an odds thing that you happen to get lucky and you're just setting yourself up for the bigger kill in terms of hurting yourself. And so I was reading that article, and that's exactly what happened to some of this guy's friends who was writing that article in the Wall Street Journal, end up taking out debt and stuff like that. So yeah, you want to be careful. I know that's it's a big thing. It's a popular thing, but don't let the small wins lull you into betting bigger. If you've gotten a nice win, I guess the best way I could say it is, especially if the odds are against you, if you've got a nice win, know when to fold them and leave. I think I saw some, just because of the nature of my business, I got more interested in betting odds and poker and stuff like that, and blackjack. That's not what I do. I don't gamble. But in terms of odds, just a lot of these sort of professional players, I guess, will go in, and if they hit a big hand, they know to leave and go to like the next table. It's an odds thing, I guess. But they were also, I guess, reading, doing all this stuff that ended up getting themselves banned from these casinos. So as far as sports, the Kings won last night. That was good. Against a good Bulls team who's on like the cuff. I don't know who was playing on the Bulls side, but Kings tied up for the worst record in the NBA at that point, so maybe Doug Christie let him try to get a win. But we'll see if the tank continues. It just seems like long odds with so many players injured. DeMar missed his first game in a long time, broke a record of made games last night, so a lot of people are out. Zach's out. Domas is out. I think Keegan didn't even play, so Russ carried the whole team. So sports-wise, that's really all I paid. I watched Wemby play last night, and he is incredible. How long he is, how athletic he is. He's going to get stronger. His work ethic. I was talking to one of my family members about this, and you can't help but think the NBA is somewhat rigged. And it has been, especially with the Kings got cheated out of it. But like Wemby to the Spurs, and he grew up a Spurs fan, like Tony Parker, had all these connections with Boris Diaw. Spurs have this long history of drafting these really, really great foreign players, so it's like a perfect spot for Wemby, and so a lot of NBA players are saying that. And I hate to say it, but it's probably true. I mean, the owner of the Spurs, I don't know who he is, but he has a lot of clout. Even when the Kings were trying to keep their team, I know a whole bunch of fans tried to appeal to the Spurs owner because he just has such high regard within the NBA. So I don't know his name, but I know him, as in, it seems like a pretty powerful presence behind the scenes. And I'm not saying he's pulling strings, but could he pull strings? Yeah, maybe. So, and then LeBron to Cleveland is from Cleveland, Derrick Rose to Chicago from Chicago. But I mean, the lottery will do that sometimes. It's just, yeah. And so my thing was, perhaps if Vivek knew how to play the game, he could pull some strings, to get the Kings to where he needs to be. Get a high draft pick. Yada, yada, yada. Or get a GM that's connected or something, so. But you can't help but think somebody's got the commissioner's ear or something, more so than other owners. It's just always the case, probably. But, I hate thinking about it like that. And then, and then the Spurs are just doing really well. I mean, I'm glad to see Fox doing well. I think he's perfect for that team. He doesn't have to be the number one option every night. They have so many. The Spurs are a type of team where I look on the floor now, and it wasn't the case just a year ago, especially when Wemby was out and Fox wasn't on the team. But it's a team I look at now, and I say, this team is more talented than the other team. I look at the Spurs on the floor against, like, OKC. I'm like, the Spurs have more talent. I mean, Wemby alone accounts for, like, 3 people in terms of talent. And then you put Fox in there, you put Stephon Castle, you put Vassell, put Dylan Harper. I mean, they just dropped Jeremy Sohan. He's not a bad player. They got Harrison Barnes. But they got so many players who are talented. They just have so much talent on the floor now. So, but again, you can't help but think, how did they get that talent? I mean, the Fox situation, that's another example. I mean, he pushed himself out of SAC, in my eyes. I mean, he wouldn't sign a long-term contract, yet he said he didn't want to be traded. So, and the Kings could have gambled and just kept him for that year or whatever until he had basically no trade value and he could just walk, or kind of get the feel for it and say, hey, he probably doesn't want to stay. So, and then you get Rich Paul in there, and he's the agent for both the player incoming and the player outgoing. So there's all this stuff going on. And then look at Washington. Trae Young and Anthony Davis are on the same team, same agent. That's what happened with the Lakers. So Rich Paul's behind the scenes, like power broken everything. I don't know. I think there's agents who are maybe too powerful, can literally change the landscape of the NBA with their influence. And I guess that's just the way things go sometimes. But it seems a little unfair. Obviously, the Kings were on the short end of the stick in that trade. I feel like Fox is now. Well, it's funny. It's like he's an all-star, but he had better stats on the Kings, and he was never an all-star. So again, it goes back to just being on the Spurs. I mean, they've built a strong reputation for what they do. So I get it. They've been excellent for so long. At the same time, again, way better stats than the Kings, and I mean, he was selected as an all-star reserve, to be fair, but still had way better stats than the Kings. And I think he didn't make it every single year. I think he might have made it once. Then his first year on San Antonio, he made it. So playing on a winning team and I think a connected organization helps. And whatever Vivek is doing may not be working connections-wise to the league's top brass. The GM, hopefully he's good and he does some stuff, but it just seems like, at least right now, and under essentially Vivek's tenure, the Kings have been sort of a laughingstock of the NBA. And so hopefully that can change, but I do think leadership helps, ownership helps. I think people have been pointing out the ownership and stuff like that. But he did save the Kings from leaving, which was a noble thing, and he's kept the Kings in Sacramento. So what more can you ask for as far as that's concerned? Anyhow, all right, y'all. It's a Monday, so I'm going to end it early. Not really early. I've been already doing this for 30 minutes or so, but hopefully you found it interesting and happy investing.